Wrath of the Lich King really was the rise of the collection enthusiast in World of Warcraft, with a tab to store mounts and companion pets, achievements and so many more titles. It offered the most ways to flex your character that we have ever seen. Welcome all, my name is Will E. So, Wrath Classic had a lot of cool items and rewards, sure, but which ones stood out the most? What would be the difference between you running past somebody and you having to pause from your game to go and inspect them? Let's get straight into it and check out some of Wrath Classic's most iconic items. When you think of icons of an expansion, it's easy to default to the big mounts or titles, but often I find myself looking back and remembering the trinkets which made it a memorable experience. Whether that's for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, looking at you, Arcana Crystal. For Wrath Classic, there are two in particular which come to mind. One is available right from day one of the expansion, the other towards the end. The first is Darkmoon Card Greatness. For a change, this is an item made through the new profession Inscription. Instead of being a drop from a raid or a dungeon, you have to assemble the Nobles deck by combining the Ace through 8 of Nobles, which can then be turned in at the Darkmoon Fair next time they are in town. In return, you're offered one of 4 trinkets, but each carry a solid amount of main stat and a huge proc on top of that. This trinket remains memorable, as for some classes you will wear this for a solid portion of the expansion. It's just really hard to replace. On the downside, everybody knows how amazing it is nowadays, so expect the cost of this early into the expansion to set you back a lot of gold. The other trinket I want to talk about comes alongside Icecrown Citadel releasing, and I have to say it is the trinket that most people will remember from Wrath, as not only being a best in slot item, but one that changes your appearance too. I'm of course talking about the Deathbringer's Will. It's another BIS trinket for PvE, though also widely used in Arena too. Where it stands out is the proc changes your model for the duration. Vrykul gives bonus strength, Iron Dwarf gives armor penetration, Tuskar crit rating, and so on. Expect more or less every single class that does physical damage to be after this trinket when ICC drops. Moving on though, trinkets are cool and all, but you only really get to see them working during combat. What about some memorable weapons from the expansion? You can't talk about iconic without talking about legendary weapons. The first one from Ulduar, Valanir, Hammer of the Ancient Kings. This is made through combining fragments obtained via bosses and eventually combined into the weapon itself. Aside from incredible stats, it has a powerful proc that can add a ton to your overall healing, causing 15% of heals to also provide a shield for affected targets. It does actually have to heal for the proc to go off though, so it's more desirable for certain healers than others. The second legendary has quite a bit more to it to put together, and this one will release alongside Icecrown Citadel, the infamous and very befitting of the legendary name, Shadowmourne. You could do a whole video solely on the quest to assemble this weapon very easily. To put it briefly though, it involves a long quest chain where you have to complete bonus tests during certain boss encounters, as well as collecting plenty of Shadowfrost shards in between. This weapon's legendary status is fitting for so many reasons. The materials that go into it, the quest journey, and of course the stats and the proc aren't half bad either. You better believe people are already lining up their class choice right now and have dreams of completing this weapon during the expansion when it was released. If you thought glaive rogues were scary in Arena during TBC, wait until you see what an arms warrior can do with a Shadowmourne late game in Wrath. But it's not just the weapon itself which makes this item stand out. After having first assembled Shadowmourne, a new quest will become available called the Lich King's Last Stand. Upon defeating Arthas for the first time with Shadowmourne equipped, a sealed chest will drop, with several tradable unique items including the Tabard of the Lightbringer, Reigns of the Crimson Death Charger, Muradin's Favor, and more. This is truly a legendary quest. You can't talk about Wrath and iconic items and not start to talk about mounts somewhere, and there is one mount, or Drake I should say, in particular that would have people creating patrol routes, recording respawn and kill times, and setting alarms for the chance to claim this elusive prize for themselves. Flying high in the Storm Peaks is one of the original open world rare mounts, the time-lost Proto-Drake. Speculation as to its respawn timer, flight patterns, and even sharing a spawn with another Drake, Viragosa, are all quite well known nowadays, heightening the competition for this trophy mount to even greater levels than what we would have seen in Wrath originally. All I can say is if you truly want this in Wrath Classic, best of luck to you. There will also be the chance to obtain legacy mounts as certain meta achievements are reintroduced to the game, such as the Black Proto Drake from Glory of the Raider 25 player. The Drake itself is notable as it has a 310% flight speed. Up to this point in the game, the only way to get this was either Ashes of Allah or a Gladiator PvP mount. It's still not exactly easy to do Glory of the Raider 25, but quite a bit more accessible than what you had to do in TBC, I would say. There are also plenty of mounts to be farmed within dungeon or raid content too. There are two mounts in particular that collectors are still running the content for to this day. Those are Mimiron's Head, which drops from Yogg-Saron, not Mimiron surprisingly, in Ulduar when you have no assistance from the keepers, as well as my personal favourite mount of all time in World of Warcraft, Invincible, who drops from the Lich King himself in Icecrown Citadel. And you may not know, but one of the most iconic pieces of music for Wrath the Lich King is named Invincible, and it's about Arthas mourning his steed's demise. One of the first things that players will chase when we board the boats to Northrend will be the Realm First achievements. Though they're not as visible as having a mount or a title, you better believe people have been optimizing and planning routes for a long time now to get these. Wrath was the first expansion to release this feature and give players something extra for being the first to the finish line. And there were Realm First achievements for all kind of things: Realm First Grandmaster Angler, first to level 80 Orc, first to level 80 Shaman. If it was something you could be first at getting, there was probably a Realm First achievement for it too. More interestingly will be the Realm First Raid achievements, because these do have titles associated with them. The first group of players to defeat Kel'Thuzad in Naxxramas 25-man will earn Conqueror of Naxxramas. Realm First of Malygos 25 will reward the Magic Seeker. Expect some crazy fast clear times and competition on the larger servers among the more competitive guilds. These achievements are a one-time thing. You know what else is a one-time thing? The chance to subscribe to this channel right now for more Wrath Classic content. Now for something which is a bit more class specific, but it was a unique way to stand out amongst others, and that's for Hunter's ability to track down and tame the spirit beasts of Northrend. First of all, you had to have talented all the way down into the Beast Mastery tree and unlock the ability to tame exotic beasts. Now, exotic beasts were all over Azeroth, and they included things like Devilsaur, Silithid, worms, and lots more. But there were 4 spirit beasts in particular from Northrend that players sought out. Those were Arcturus, the spirit bear in the Grizzly Hills, Gondria, the spirit tiger in Zuldrak, Skoll, the spirit wolf in the Storm Peaks, and Lokra Nahak in Sholazar Basin. Aside from an ethereal appearance, they also had a unique active ability to fire off Spirit Strike, which is quite similar to how Druid's Moonfire works. If you see one out in the wild, I'm sure all the hunters in the area would very much appreciate if you called it out, as all these pets share lengthy respawn timers and multiple spawn locations, making them either moderately or extremely difficult to track down. Now for an item that starts a very memorable and lengthy quest. It was released as a random drop from any of the Icecrown Citadel dungeons, those being Pit of Sauron, Forge of Souls, and the Halls of Reflection. I'm of course talking about the Battered Hilt. Very reminiscent of the Quell Sarah questline from Vanilla WoW, if you remember that, where initially you found a book as a random drop within Diamol that led you to reforging the blade in Onyxia's Breath and rewarded you a pretty solid tanking weapon. This particular item follows somewhat of a similar journey, where you undergo learning about the weapon, reforging the blade through Icecrown dungeons, and eventually taking it all the way to the Sunwell to purify it. The questline even has a different ending between Blood Elves and other races due to the blade's heritage and originally being a weapon of legend among the elves. At the end of the quest, you're able to choose from a number of different rewards that suit any class or playstyle. Whilst the reward can often be rather quickly replaced in Icecrown Citadel in terms of item level, it's still worth trying to get hold of a Battered Hilt so that you can experience the questline firsthand. Let's finish up with something that you cannot go through Wrath and not manage to have collected at least a few of. Titles, titles, titles. There's Realm First that we already went over here, there's titles for holiday events, and with the raiding being either 10 or 25 man now, you better believe there's titles for each difficulty as well. Some of these titles though are a little more prestigious than others. If you complete Naxxramas 25 man with 0 deaths throughout the entire raid, well, congratulations, you are now known as the Immortal. There were titles that wanted you to do an encounter in a certain way too, such as Herald of the Titans, which was defeating Algalon the Observer 10 man without anyone in your raid wearing gear that's higher item level than what's available in 10 man Ulduar, and so many more. Each and every activity in the game had various rewards tied to it through collection pieces, titles, mounts, companion pets, and so on. You could go on for a very long time to list all the ways that Wrath Classic brings iconic and memorable items into the game, but I think that's a good few to jog your memory. Got any other memorable additions that you had back then or want to aim for this time around? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe for more Wrath Classic content, and we'll see you in Azeroth very soon.